how did you get into decentralized AI? What is that?
I've done a lot of blockchain before, and now I'm doing AI. And decentralized AI is kind of the marriage between the two. A lot of the philosophies behind blockchain in freedom, in decentralization of power, in allowing more space for evolution and more different directions fits very well in decentralized AI, because you're taking the AI technology and you're applying blockchain principles to it. And now, because we're defining intelligence, we're replacing part of humanity's intelligence. So I want as many options as possible and as much transparency as possible and as much control as possible. With these big behemoths, which are like a few companies which are creating this technology, you don't know exactly what data they're using to train. You don't know exactly what biases they put into it. You don't know exactly when they change their products. So sometimes it will be beneficial for you, sometimes it will not be, but it's almost always going to be beneficial for them, because they're doing this to remove costs and maybe also control intelligence and output in the future. So that means that these companies have the power to kind of tell you what to think and how to think. And I think that's one of the scariest parts. So now I'm getting to the why is it bad to have centralized power?
Why are we not talking about this? What is happening?
We're not seeing this right now because it's currently being developed. So We're right at the edge of technology right now. That's why it's also extremely exciting.
Yes.
And it's happening. We're seeing very good results.
Hi, and welcome back to New World in the Making. This conversation was a really special one for me. I feel like I'm saying this every time, but it's so true. I've been wanting to speak with someone deeply involved in decentralized AI for a long, long time. And I finally had the chance to sit down with Daniel Luca, investor at EdenBlock, who's right at the center of this transformation. Daniel isn't just an expert. He's actively helping shape the future of intelligence itself. We talked about what decentralizing AI really means, who holds the power, how intelligence is shaped, and what it takes to build systems that are open, transparent, and aligned with collective intelligence. Daniel is at the heart of this transformation, funding the technologies that could redefine how we define and distribute power in our society. I'm genuinely excited to share this one with you. So let's dive in. Just a quick one, and I promise quick one before we dive into the episode. I really want to take a moment to just say thank you for being here. And to keep this work alive and help it reach even more people, I need your help. Just by hitting that subscribe button, you're becoming an active part of this new world in the making. And you're enabling this conversation to grow into directions we can't even imagine yet. So thank you truly. And now for real, let's dive into today's conversation. Daniel, thanks so much for joining today.
Adriana, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, this is the second time recording. First time was unfortunately not really working, but here we are again, and you said yes to recording it again. So thanks so much again.
Yeah, we had such a great conversation last time. I feel like I hope we at least hit that level of deepness.
Yes, no, I'm gonna try all my best to get there again. Maybe first, can you share a bit about your personal background?
So I'm Daniel Luca. I've in the blockchain space for maybe like almost 9 years right now. I'm a developer. I'm very technical. I've always been in love with technologies, and a lot more recently, I'm diving into AI, and as a technical partner at EdenBlock, we invest in a lot of AI technologies, and we already have a very interesting portfolio of companies. And that's what I'm spending most of my time with, like everything AI, not just transformers, but also like reinforcement learning and um, retrieval augmented generation or any other kinds of other technologies that kind of fit into AI and how AI technologies work, and especially if like the how to marry them with the blockchain part.
And I was very fascinating last time we talked about your upbringing and also that you, I don't know, were just very curious kid that was kind of under challenged, let's say. And can you share a bit more about that?
Where do you think I should start?
Wherever, like, however like your story starts, whatever you feel like starts there.
I can kind of run through it pretty quickly.
Hmm.
I started coding when I was 5. That's when I also when I started to learn how to read and
Surprising.
write. Because I read and write like I had a home computer like a Commodore 64, which is a really old computer, and I spent a lot of time with that computer. I didn't spend a lot of time outside with people, and I
Hmm.
was very comfortable, and that made me feel really well. It felt like I was able to build things, and I always liked sciences. And they made a lot of sense to me. I went to the computer science Olympiad since I was 12. There are a few other things like also physics, but it was difficult to do both of them at the same time, and they started to overlap after when I was a bit older. So I had to choose. Physics was also very interesting because it I was understanding the nature of the world, but it was a lot more difficult to build things and not as immediate with physics. But with computer science, like I could just spend like half an hour and write a bit of code, and it felt like I was creating something.
Mm, wow, great.
So yeah, I have a long history with computers, and I even had a period of time where I didn't have a computer at home, so I was writing code on my notebooks just because I wanted to, and I was kind of experimenting with things.
Wow, fascinating. And then from there, you went um, to college, and then you dropped out because you were not interested in what they were teaching you because it was all too low level, basically, right?
The Olympiad is very different from what you do at school, so you need special training. So like what you're going to do at school is not going to match and is not never going to be enough when you go to the Olympiad. So
Okay.
when I went to college, I was honestly very disappointed because I knew almost everything that was presented there, and I felt like I was not super interested in many of the other other topics that were presented, like too much physics, too much electronics. I didn't want to do so advanced electronics. I wanted to do like only computer science. I already knew a few programming languages by then, and it felt like I wasn't learning fast enough. So I found a company that kind of accepted me to work for them, and I started building mobile games. Then this was a really long time ago. Like Android was not the thing, iOS was not the thing. This was a long time before the actual mobile era. But I was learning. I was doing stuff. It was fun, and it felt like I was progressing, and I was progressing at a pace I was a lot more comfortable with than university. University was
Mm.
way too slow for me, and kind of realized that I can learn by myself, and if I surround myself with people who are passionate, we can learn together, and it's one of the best things you can do. Like find people who are passionate, keep them close, and spend time with them and talk about what you're interested in. You're all going to evolve really quickly.
I love that. And that's very fascinating new way of learning and seeing education and just yeah, I I always struggled with a traditional way of education. The system is just not really built for a lot of very passionate people, young people to really develop, so there are exceptions and there are lots of places where it works, but then for a lot of us also it's sometimes hard to even find those places or just so yeah, it's very encouraging and great to see an example, especially also with all the technologies that are now available that we can actually learn a lot through untraditional ways, right?
Yeah, it's a lot easier right now, and they're kind
Yeah.
of becoming the traditional way right now because you see all these online academies. But back then, it was a lot more difficult to find the right information online and find the right book and find the right people. And you had to be close to them. You didn't have the closeness that the internet gives you right now. But I do feel like I had a lot more stronger connections with fewer people back
Mhm.
then than I have right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I love also how you build startups. You were a hacker. Um, then how was it called?
Bug bounties.
Bug bounties. That's
When
it.
I was in my early 20s, bug bounties were not that popular. So if I
Mm-hmm.
were to hack something, I could
Mm-hmm.
only tell my friends. Otherwise, even if I told the companies what the problem is and how I found it, they were not too happy about it. I wasn't really expecting a bounty. I was kind of expecting a thank you, and that
Yeah.
didn't really come.
Oh
But
my
in the later years, they're um, they have bug bounties, which is just like a system for hackers to be rewarded.
God. Mm-hmm.
And in a way, it's like, yeah, thank you for not hacking us. Here's something. Thank you for telling us. Thank you for telling only us and not telling the internet so others hack us. There is a way to disclose information, disclose exploits responsibly, and people should use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had lots of fun being a hacker, building startups, and then starting to work in blockchain in around 2016, 2017, where the ecosystem and the environment was very wild west. You could kind of do whatever you want, so I was very comfortable in that space.
Wow. And then you became an investor, like out of the blue. It's just like the whole story that I found fascinating. It's just like, wow, okay. From startup founder and then investor, and now you're with EdenBlock. Um,
Yeah, I started working in blockchain. I had to learn lots of things, but we were learning because we were also developing the technology while we were flying the plane at the same we were we were building the plane while we were flying it. That's what blockchain is.
Love that analogy. Yeah.
And I built an analytics company there. I did a lot of security in the blockchain space, and I co-founded a stable coin at one point. But then I felt like there's some improvement you can do at the investor level. So I kind of thought that maybe I can actually try to be an investor because I wanted to have interaction with interesting projects and see what technologies are being built as soon as possible. And if
Hmm.
you're the investor, like very early stage, you're
Hmm.
going to see a lot of ideas. You're going to see where the market and where the developers want to take the space to.
Yeah.
And you can start thinking about that. You can start helping them. You can collaborate with them. It's extremely interesting back then because I always wanted to be at the edge of technology, and this felt like it was giving me the opportunity to be there.
Mm.
And luckily, I found EdenBlock, and EdenBlock found me, and now we're doing this together.
That's fascinating. And yeah, and so important. You're doing such important work there. So yeah, thanks so much for being there now and building the what's about to happen next.
We're seeing very interesting stuff happening in this ecosystem.
Amazing. Um, How did you get so curious about AI and specifically decentralized AI? Why?
I think the first time I got curious about AI was um, around 2016.
Okay.
So this was one period of my time where I was kind of thinking what to do next. And that's when I had a very deep look at AI and blockchain. And I think fortunately I chose blockchain because I had a really good time, and I'm still having a good time in the blockchain scene, and this ecosystem is really vibing. Um, but now AI seems like it's a lot more interesting, and it's probably the right time to dive deeper into it, since I do have passion about it, and now it seems to be a bit more vibrant than blockchain, honestly.
Interesting. And why do you have such passion for AI?
That's not something I asked myself, but I kind of don't try to question why I'm passionate about things and try to dive into the passions directly.
Mhm.
It's it's something it kind of AI kind of defines intelligence, and it's very interesting and very kind of godlike to be able to create something which is intelligent and something which is something that kind of lives by itself and is able to create and edit and do actions after you kind of let it go. So AI is the promise of that, and especially you can kind of see that with AI agents and so on. But AI in its purest form is intelligence, and it's a very different paradigm with AI than with normal programming, because I've been a programmer kind of my whole life. But with programming, you take an algorithm and you define step by step what it should be done.
Mhm.
With AI, you have to say that I don't know exactly what the actual algorithm is and how it should be solved, but
Okay.
I'm going to create the system which is going to find the right way to solve the problems. Because with AI, we create these neural systems and these neural networks. We don't design them, we let them
Mhm.
evolve, we train them, and in the end, each neuron has a bunch of values that we don't necessarily contest. We kind of say like this works in practice the best, so we're
Mm.
just going to accept them. We're going to do more training in one direction or the other, but we're not changing them directly. We're letting them evolve. So it's a very different paradigm from normal programming, which I really love.
Mm. That's so interesting that you're saying this because it kind of reminds me of from programming, kind of the idea that we know everything, right? Like we know like every step that we need to take. And then AI now is bringing us this idea of maybe we don't, but maybe we can build the systems that allow us to then discover those new intelligence. Is that kind of a bit what is happening here?
That's exactly right. In normal programming, you kind of have this theory, you create the algorithm, you start to kind of calculate the complexity of it. And then if you really like math, you also have to kind of, you can prove that that's the optimal way.
Mm.
With AI, you don't do anything, any of that. It's a completely different approach. You create kind of this almost organic system, which is able to evolve. So for example, you have different types of AIs. One would be, let's say, reinforcement learning, which is exists for lots of years, but it's not necessarily the one which is in focus right now because everybody's looking at LLMs. But reinforcement learning is you create a neural, kind of like a brain, a neural network,
Okay.
and then you not just create one, you create 100 instances of it, and then you give it a problem and see which neural network reaches the end. The ones that reach the end, you compensate them and you create multiples of that. You kind of remove the others and take the ones that reach the end, you mutate them a little bit and you create more of it. So you create another set of 100 based on the ones that succeeded. And you
Right.
keep doing that. So it's like evolution, but sped up as much as possible.
Mm.
So
And
that's why it feels very, very organic.
right. Okay. Wow. So many questions here. So wait. So then, if this is also happening with AI, isn't it? Like we are also doing that with AI right now.
This is artificial intelligence. So technically it is, yeah, AI,
The
yes.
reinforcing learning technique that is like this is how we train AI, isn't it?
When if you're calling AI like ChatGPT,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
but it's ChatGPT is a combination of multiple techniques. One is the actual training with the LLMs, and then there is a part which is exactly reinforcement learning. So
Hmm.
they took a huge number of texts and they forced them into kind of this neural network, and then it learned how sentences work, how the English language works, and so on. And then they had to do post training. In post training, you do this reinforcement learning where you're asking it questions, and you reword the parts, the kind of copies that give you answers in a manner that you like, in a manner that you understand, in a form that you understand. And OpenAI, this is why they were maybe a lot more successful than the other companies in the beginning, because they did this post learning technique, which is called reinforcement learning. And then it's where they had to take a lot of people and kind of ask them to say which output they liked and which output they didn't like. So
Okay.
that's why all the answers of ChatGPT look really good, but sometimes if you dive into the details, maybe they're not saying the right things, but the form is really pristine. Even if you look at code, it's a lot more difficult to kind of identify bad code, because bad code previously looked bad. It looked messy. Now
Mhm.
with AI, all generated code looks really clean,
Mm,
but it doesn't mean that that's
good.
100% correct.
Okay. Wow. And so then there is a lot of in-baked bias in there, isn't it? If it's like if we can say this was a good answer and we are reinforcing that, um, then how our whole paradigm is structured. It's then more about how we see the world and what kind of outcomes we like versus what we don't. Is that right?
That's a great observation. So the people who did the filtering and the rewarding, they
Mm-hmm.
kind of decided this is good and this is bad based on their own subjective experience.
Right.
So there is a lot of bias baked into AIs. And if you're going to use different AIs, especially I think with Grok, it's the most obvious. It's
Oh.
very unhinged, so there's definitely a different set of people that filter the outputs there. So
Mm.
yes, there is a lot of bias also in post processing, but also in pre processing, in pre training, where
Mm-hmm.
it depends on the data that you feed to it and what it learns.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Fascinating. And then, so this whole universe now is very calling you more than it used to, right? um, how did you then get into decentralized AI? And what is that? What does it mean?
I think I've kind of been lucky in my experience, because I've done a lot of blockchain before, and now I'm doing AI, and decentralized AI is kind of the marriage between the two. So it's a
Okay.
very, very natural progression for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm already very comfortable with all things blockchain. I'm kind of forced to become an expert, or a lot more knowledgeable in the AI space.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the philosophies behind blockchain, in freedom, in decentralization of power, in allowing uh, more space for evolution and more in a more different directions, fits very well in decentralized AI because you're just kind of you're taking the AI technology and you're applying blockchain principles to it. So you're taking all the good parts of blockchain from the technology itself and applying them to another great technology, which is AI, and allowing it to evolve in a more free manner.
Mm. Okay. Can you go deeper into that? Because right now, maybe explain first what is the scenario right now? What are we um what is OpenAI doing? What is you were saying about Grok? How do they work in a centralized way of, yeah, let's say we interact every day with ChatGPT. So what does it mean? Like for from a centralized perspective, why should we then care, and what's wrong with that?
I think some of the problems we haven't seen them yet, but we
Yeah.
know they exist there because we've seen what happens when you centralize powers, even in politics, in history, when there's too much power centralized into too few people's hands,
Mm-hmm.
they can abuse that power. They can make decisions which are not good for the majority of population, and there's not much you can do to stop them at that point. So it's probably already too late, and you kind of have to
It's
create a
late.
revolution.
Wait, it's already too late. What does that mean?
I mean, it's too late that you cannot make small changes.
Okay.
So you have to create a revolution. And I'm Romanian. I've like when I was 3 years old, there was a revolution. It's like the the population had to rise up and fight the army, which is it's pretty bloody. You don't want to get there. So maybe you want to start evolving these systems before you get to the part that we have to start killing each other. Um, so it's not the single time we've seen this. There's a lot of other problems with this in terms of companies, because maybe this is not happening so much right now, or it's not as obvious, but we still have other holders of power, and those are usually the companies. So it's I don't want to stop them. I don't want to destroy them, but I want to give a fighting chance to a lot more people, a lot more groups of people who want to contribute to this technology, and they should have the opportunity to do it. So if we're looking at the internet right now, and we have a few companies which hold a huge amount of power, like kind of everybody knows Google and everybody uses Google. So if I'm going to ask something to Google, like which is the right way to do something, it's going to
Mhm.
give me some answers. And most people look at the first few results, maybe the
Yeah.
first three. You almost never go to the second page because Google has kind of trained you to give you pretty good results in
Mm-hmm.
the first page. And after a few years of doing that, you're never going to go to the second page or the third page. So that means that they can start kind of tweaking the results in directions that they want. And you have maybe other state actors which are forcing power onto these companies. So that means that they can control the biases that the companies have. So that means that these companies have the power to kind of tell you what to think and how to think. And I think that's one of the scariest parts.
Okay.
So now I'm getting to the why is it bad to have centralized power? That's
Yeah.
one thing when you kind of give too much power to one entity or to a few entities.
Mm-hmm.
Another problem is maybe those entities are not being necessarily influenced or they're not malicious, but something happens with them and they start crumbling down. So that means that a lot of the services, a lot of people, and a lot of companies which are depending on those are also going to be affected. So this is where open source comes into play, where you have code which is created by lots of developers, and they give you an option to not depend on the closed source of a few companies. And that means that you can add your own features, you can add your own improvements to your product without relying too much on other people's time, resources, and so on. So another that's why decentralizing is also good. And we've seen the rise of open source. Linux is open source, and the most servers are running Linux right now. It's the backbone of the internet, and that's good. There's so many benefits to having open source, and now we're because we're defining intelligence, it's even scarier because you don't want to allow a few people to define and control intelligence. With each of these technologies, they're kind of maybe replacing a function or a role that humanity had. And now because we're defining intelligence, we're replacing part of humanity's intelligence. So I want as many options as possible and as much transparency as possible and as much control as possible. With these big behemoths, which are like a few companies which are creating this technology, you don't know exactly what data they're using to train. You don't know exactly what biases they put into it. You don't know exactly when they change their products. A lot of people are upset with GPT-5 because GPT-5 is kind of like a router which decides based on your question to what model to send your prompt. So that means that you're going to get different results based on how complex your question is or what domain is it asking, but it's not giving you the option to choose that. So sometimes it will be beneficial for you, sometimes it will not be, but it's almost always going to be beneficial for them because they're doing this to remove costs and maybe also control intelligence and output in the future. There's no way to know right now, but we will find out. It always happens. When they have the power, maybe they don't want to do it, but they're forced into doing it. And even with countries which seem very free, US, the land of the free, there's companies have been so many times forced to do things that they want to do.
Yeah. Okay, again, so many questions. Let's start maybe with, when OpenAI right now they're just all saying a bit more that now we're entering a kind of bubble, maybe of a financial bubble, related to NVIDIA kind of investing back into OpenAI and all that. How do you see that? How do you see that play out in terms of financial markets, and as well as how do they will they make money at some point, and the AI companies, and how will they maybe make money, because right now they're losing a lot of money. So how do you see a business model maybe work out? Do you think we're going to be even more dependent, and then they have going to have more control? How do you see that whole thing play out?
This is an interesting question because it's very related to how capitalism works. And we've seen capitalism in action in the last tens of years, but now it seems to be maybe a bit more accelerated than previously. And capitalism, I think Uber is a pretty good example because it's recent enough and it's familiar enough for all of us.
Yeah.
Once they created the model and they found the how the product works, a lot of people tried to copy them. So what do you do in that case? Because you don't own cars, you don't own drivers, you don't own anything. You're just creating the market where people rent cars from other people.
Yes, very good point. Yeah.
So to get there and to kind of win the market and be the final company in this space, you have to drive other people out, destroy them or buy them out.
Mm-hmm.
And their strategy was to have lower costs uh, for the clients and big benefits for the drivers. So that means
Yes.
that they were losing a lot of money for a long time.
Yes.
But what was happening is that everybody on both sides of the market, they had to use Uber because it was a
That's
good
so
service and it was cheapest
true. Mm-hmm.
and cheapest for the user and most beneficial for the driver. And you do this for a long time. The others need to keep raising money and more money than you, but
Yeah.
everybody's losing money for a while. And you either buy them out or wait until they crash out and close their business. So this is one capitalist strategy that seems to work very well.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars for a few years, but after that, you're going to be the winner, which is crazy when you kind of define it this way.
Yeah.
With AI, it seems to be very similar, but it seems to be a lot larger. The market seems to be a lot larger because we kind of discovered this intelligence, how to create intelligence now. We're not necessarily discovering cars or transportation. We kind of had that before. We had taxis before. They were just
Mm-hmm.
displacing taxis. Now you're creating this, which is interesting enough. It applies to everyone. It's very easy to understand, and it's pretty useful.
Yeah.
And now you have lots of companies which are creating technology. I don't say pretty good technology, but um, you're saying that they're losing money,
Mm-hmm.
which I think it's true. I think they're generating some money, but they're also losing a lot of money. Um, I don't know exactly how this is going to play out because some of the companies are pretty strong, and some of the Chinese companies are also pretty good at generating models, generating technology products, and also they have a lot of talent there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know exactly where you want to go with this. It kind of is like this is how capitalism works. They're gonna try to make the other part lose as many resources as they can.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to survive and the others are not, then I'm going to start to jack up the prices. I'm
Yeah.
going to be the only player in the space, so I can kind of do whatever I want.
Yes. So it's basically a monopoly. Like we're going to even more centralization. Yeah.
Yes.
And with that, like kind of this view and vision of, okay, we are in a space where then maybe it's just going to be one massive company, one massive AI company that is going to take over in all sorts of aspects of life. Is that a bit like maybe their vision so that they can really monetize basically everything they want because we are so dependent on them? Is that because what I'm struggling with to understand is to see what's the end goal of making money? Where do they make that money? You know what I mean? It's like so. Uh, how do we where do we go from here, like because if everyone is kind of dropping the prices and everyone is making tech free available to everyone, then they're gonna lose always money, and the only way I can see for them to be interested in this is to have a monopoly, and then they can actually put the prices on whatever they want so that they can recover all that massive investment.
I maybe on the surface is you have to jack up the prices and you have to have all the user base, but as I was kind of saying previously, GPT-5 is more like a router. So
Yeah.
maybe you're asking the same price, but you're routing to cheaper models.
Right. Okay.
So you're reducing your costs while getting the same from your users. And it's not just the inference cost, but also the training costs are reduced over time. So we're finding more better techniques to train models and cheaper, so you can also reduce costs there.
Okay.
But um, a lot of a lot of businesses start with kind of gain users first based on features. So when you bring something like a new product, the
Yeah.
first thing that people are going to be interested in is like, I haven't seen this before. What can
Uh-huh.
it do? What are
Okay.
the features?
Yeah.
So people are not going to be as price sensitive in the beginning for some products because
Yes.
nothing like this exists. So it's very difficult to compare to other parts,
Yeah.
other similar products. So the features are going to be very important. And then people are going to reduce costs.
Uh-huh.
So maybe kind of you have start to have copycats. They kind of have the same features,
Yeah.
and then you choose the cheapest one. In this, standardization helps. So, for
Uh-huh.
example, OpenAI created their API, and a lot of other people are providing APIs, but they also have to provide like a OpenAI compatible API, so it's easy for you to move from OpenAI to their services.
Wow.
So you're reducing the costs of change, and that works pretty well for some companies. But that also means that they can the same user can move from your service to a different service because they moved from OpenAI to you, and now they can move to the other 100 providers.
Yeah.
And maybe I think the last part is convenience, where you have which gives you which is the most easy to use, and this is one of the most complex things because you've kind of assumed that you solved features, you kind of solved cost, or cost is marginally different from the other providers. Like, and now you have convenience, like which kind of offers you everything with the
Uh-huh.
least friction. And that's maybe it's in terms of features, or they're also doing these analytics for me, or they're also helping with these other things which are bundled together. So it's a lot of it's a bunch more things happening here.
Uh-huh.
Um, and now how what's their plan? It's they're playing this capitalist game.
Uh-huh.
So they cannot stop now. Like when you play this, you that's how you have to do it. Like you're going to get the biggest user base. You have to show growth so you can do bigger raises, and you have to keep doing it until the others crash, which is kind of crazy because you have to show growth all the time. And after you get all people, you're going to have slower growth.
Yeah.
But when you cannot stop, right?
No. But I mean, especially with what you were saying with the integration with other application features or whatever. Um, and you have a lot of copycats that can do it maybe with way less investment because they just are copying whatever worked. So I don't know. It just feels like tech is just doomed to be deflationary. And I just don't it's just so hard for me to see how it's not going to be a bubble that's going to just pop. And it's either for me it's like, okay, so I totally understand the whole like, okay, monopolistic thing where it's then if there's just one player, they're just going to be able to do whatever they want. Or we have really that kind of competition where it's just yeah, where then decentralization of AI is just so much more possible, and then we have such a massive freedom and also not really high costs and high prices. I don't know, or am I completely wrong here?
I want to maybe I want to address the bubble first, and then we can
Yeah.
go into the decentralized AI part,
Yeah.
why I think it's a lot more healthy.
Yeah.
But the bubble, I wouldn't say it's something negative. It's just something that exists and it will happen.
Okay.
It kind
Okay.
of shows that a lot of people are interested in this, and a lot of
Hmm.
people are moving at the same time in the same direction,
Yeah.
and it's inevitably it's creating a bubble. It's
Okay.
not like we're planning for it, but you also cannot go in this direction because I could maybe wait 5 years for the
Mhm.
bubble to burst, but I'm losing 5 years. I'm not learning so much. I'm not being active in this space for those 5 years. So like a bubble is inevitable when you're attracting a lot of attention, a lot of people, capital, and so on. A bubble happened with like you might remember the 2000 bubble of the internet. Like
.com.
the internet didn't die after that. It just
Yeah.
like there was too much attention concentrated
Mhm.
in too little time, and a
Yeah.
lot of great companies came right after 2000. So
Yes.
it's something that it will happen. We're probably in the bubble, and it's fine. It's inevitable.
Yeah. Okay. I see.
Regarding the decentralized AI, is I'm really interested in enabling developers or enabling a lot more people to train AIs,
Mhm.
and not just train them, but also run them on their own terms. And
Okay.
this is why decentralized AI is really interesting, because you're using the principles of blockchain, and not just the philosophy that we discussed earlier, but also like the technology of it, which is very intertwined with the philosophy, where you're coordinating people, and then you're giving them incentives to do something which you consider is right. If they don't want to do it, they can join other networks, but you
Mhm.
define a network, you define a set of rules, and they join that network. And in that network, as an example, I'm training models, and all of us will be owning this huge model that we're building right now, because everybody is getting some kind of token as a reward, but you're contributing with your own GPUs, you're contributing with time, energy, maybe with data. And that's where kind of blockchain and decentralized AI, I think, really shine. And once you do that, you are able to also kind of sell the model to other people who find that model useful, or run it for yourself, or do some kind of other things on top. And we're just kind of discovering or developing these things right now.
Okay. Wait. A lot of questions again. So, can we go a bit more into detail on how it actually works? Because I think maybe a lot of us won't be so familiar with how the blockchain works and what what. So, I think even going from the beginning, right now, if we see any sort of AI company, they usually are using a form of ChatGPT, right? Even and then they adapt it to their own business. So, and could you maybe explain how that functions and operates, and then what's the difference to decentralized AI?
Yeah. So the company OpenAI, they created this very popular product, which is ChatGPT, and a lot of people are using. And ChatGPT is kind of like an interface over their API. So that means that you define a persona for um, a for that AI you're talking to, which is it's usually pretty simple. It's like you are an assistant and you have to be very helpful, and
Yeah.
there are some things that you cannot do. And you define that persona and you create this interface, and it's a chat interface, and that's ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the back end, for people who want to use the technology, but in a more vanilla way, in a closer way, you provide APIs. So that means that I can write code which interacts with OpenAI servers. I send them my prompts, and then they stream the responses back. But I have a lot more control when I do that. Another thing I can do is that I can fine tune, which is post train those models based on my specific use case. So, for example, I'm doing security on blockchain, so I'm feeding this AI some examples of what insecure code looks like, what secure code looks like, and I'm telling you this is good, this is bad. I'm rewarding it. So that means I'm fine tuning some models, and then in the hopes that in the future it will help me more quickly and better identify other pieces of code that I don't know if they're right or not. So a lot of companies are using the technologies that these companies create
Mm-hmm.
to and they create like a wrapper around the API, and they create their own products on top.
Okay. And that means also that all the data that's generated there, OpenAI has access to that.
I don't know the exact licenses,
Okay.
but you might retain ownership over that data.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also no real way to prove that they're not using that data.
Okay. So
And
it's
this is where kind of blockchain comes in.
mm-hmm.
Because an example I'm giving with blockchain to kind of explain to people why blockchain is a great application platform is you're going to Twitter and they
Mm-hmm.
prove to you, they kind of tell you that, oh, we just launched this repository where we completely open source our algorithm, and this is how we rank top posts. We're not looking for specific keywords, we're not doing this, we're not doing that, and this is exactly what we're doing. And that's kind of a promise. It's not necessarily reality, it's more of a promise, because then you open Twitter and then you see the homepage and you don't know for sure if that code is actually executed or not.
Okay.
You only have the promise that they gave you. And most companies don't even give you that.
No.
So with blockchain, it's different. With blockchain, you have a developer which is creating an application and is deploying this application on the blockchain. Every time you're interacting with that application,
Mm-hmm.
you see exactly the code which is going to be executed because it's like seeing directly into the heart of the server. You know exactly what's going to happen. And if it changes, you also see that. There is no promise, it's a lot more certainty.
Okay.
And it's creating this immense transparency. And that's why we call them smart contracts, because
Yeah.
you kind of enter a more kind of a contract with that application.
Mm-hmm. And the smart contract, I know we already covered that last time. Can you just briefly explain what it is?
I I also kind of try to define contracts in two ways.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we have the normal um, law contracts, which are we're familiar with the piece of paper that we sign, or if it's even more like more recent, you can digitally sign, but it's the same thing. And you in that piece of paper, you see, okay, you're allowed to do this. These are your rights and these are your obligations. For the other party, these are their rights and their obligations, and hopefully you're going to do uh, only which is written here and nothing else. And that's why I'm saying it's hopefully, because in reality, you can kind of do whatever you want, and then you're in breach of contract, and then they have to come after you because you did something which you were not supposed to.
Yeah.
And these are normal contracts. With smart contracts, you kind of define behavior in a similar way. Like you're allowed to do this and you're not allowed to do that. But because you encode all of this in code, the code lets you do the actions that you should be doing
Mm-hmm.
and stops you from doing the actions that you should not be doing. So it's less, you have less
Options.
instances where you're in breach of contract because the code should not let you do that.
Right.
So that's what I see like a big difference between like normal contracts and smart contracts is like the smart contracts don't let you do the bad stuff.
Mm.
Now we do see hacks, and that's something that needs to be addressed, I think. Um, and that's where the code should stop you from doing something, but it doesn't really do it, or something
Mm-hmm.
goes bad and it's able to be manipulated. And that's where you kind of have to bring more other parties into the system and see if the intention was to do one thing or the other. And an interesting thing is like there's a documentary which is going to be launched in 2 weeks, I think, which is called "Code is Law," and
Done.
that's something that explores if code is actual law or law is law, and it's specific for this blockchain ecosystem, and it takes some really interesting old stories and some newer stories and kind of dissects them and has interviews with some very involved people in the industry.
Interesting. Okay. And how is that connected with then AI, decentralized AI? How can those smart contracts influence then what we can do or not do on the blockchain for AI? And how has that anything to do with compute power? Yeah, like run us through the whole thing.
I think that blockchain is very useful to from the inception of creating the artificial intelligence to actually running it. So that means
Okay.
that you can use blockchain and these technologies to create rules where people have to coordinate compute power and energy in order to first train the models. So you can start from like the inception of the model, like, okay, we need power and we need GPUs. We know they're somewhere around the world. We don't know where they are. We don't have to build the data centers ourselves. We just need to create the marketplace and let people come in. So
Okay. Quick question here. Sorry to interrupt. Just a quick question. So the thing is that right now we have such a centralization because of GPUs, which because of the chip power that you need a lot of GPUs and a lot of chip power to build these LLMs. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. And then, so this is the reason why then we barely see any other models or like with a lot of investment needed, um, because there is such a high demand for these massive chips, GPUs that are very expensive. And so decentralized AI, what it enables us to kind of decentralize that GPUs and chip power, is that kind of okay?
Yes, so that's part of it. It allows anyone which has access to those GPUs to rent them to anyone that is able to provide some kind of compensation for it. Right now, if you want to create data centers, if you want to train models, it's a lot more difficult because you most of the time you would maybe need to rent a data center, but because there's so many companies with lots and lots of money who are trying to build this right now,
Yeah.
there's a the prices are going up, and maybe they force you to either pay in advance or buy the GPUs, or if you have enough money, kind of create the data centers yourself,
Okay.
and then you're a bit maybe you're kind of forced to use them all the time if you own them,
Mm-hmm.
because maybe okay, I'm not gonna build this model, but as soon as I finish my previous model, I have to start a new one.
Yeah.
So maybe the decentralization part allows you to rent some of that compute to others if you don't need to. Maybe you don't need to use 100% of it. So then it optimizes this power, and it doesn't allow people to buy GPUs and just because they don't want others to have them, because we're seeing this with
Mhm.
US. They're not allowing China to have access to some GPUs, which is
Wow.
insane from my point of view. Um, it's just crazy. It's like it's the resources. I think they're there. We just
Mhm.
need to make them available.
Right. Okay. And decentralized AI makes it in some way that through blockchain, it's kind of the control over that power is made made available for everyone that wants and needs it.
Yes, that's exactly what it does. It's blockchain is very good at coordinating people or creating the rules for coordination. And once you create the rules, the people who have the resources and the people that need the resources will be able to find each other and use a trusted intermediary like the blockchain
Mm.
to collaborate. So that means that you're having people who have GPUs and who have access to energy provide this to other people. And but this is not the only thing. You also need to provide data, and there's like so many other things that go into this. But that's like the gist of it.
Yeah. Okay. And that is then also not just making it available, but also making it quite easily and quite affordable as well.
It's also making it affordable because since the market is public, the ones that can provide this at a lower cost with benefit the most. The
Uh-huh.
ones that only can provide it at a higher cost, maybe they don't benefit as much, or they might be. It depends on how much people are willing to pay. But it creates a free market and a more open market. So
Mm-hmm.
the price is found in this market.
Mm. And how do, like, just me as a individual, how do I provide that GPUs for a developer that might want to use it? Can I make then also profit from it? I guess I can, right? It's because I'm providing a service for the developer.
Yeah. Um, Especially in the beginning with Bitcoin. It's like as
Mm-hmm.
soon as Bitcoin launched, you could mine Bitcoin on your laptops. That means it didn't need a lot of power because there was not a lot of demand, there was not a lot of competition in the network, so anyone could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly after that, you needed more and more power, more specialized power. And then it was even difficult with specialized hardware to do it. So people created pools. So that's like 10,000 people all coordinate into one single pool. If the pool finds a block, all of the rewards are split according to how much work each one has contributed. And you get a fraction of a Bitcoin, but that means that you're getting something every time
Mm-hmm.
every time a block is found by those 10,000 people, and not just waiting 3 years until you find a block by yourself.
Yeah.
um, and with blockchain you can do a similar thing with AI. If you have those GPUs, you have like a gaming PC and you're playing games, you have like an powerful NVIDIA card, you can install a software on your PC and then let it run, and that energy which is being used, it's going to the people who are building models, and then you get a fraction of the work that it's put into training those models.
Okay, fascinating. Okay. Okay, so once we have that GPUs then, what then? And what can a developer then do with that?
One interesting thing with decentralized AI is that it allows like medium developers to actually be able to create something without
Mhm.
the upfront cost of creating a data center or buying GPUs or doing something like that. Maybe
Right.
I'm going to train something for just for a week. It's
Okay.
not a huge cost I have to pay. I'm just paying for that week.
Can you
I
like roughly, sorry, can you roughly what kind of price are we talking about right now? Costing.
it very it depends on exactly how much you want to put into it and what exactly are you building.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of give you a rough cost, some of the big companies did were not very transparent about what the costs of building their models were, but it's estimated to be in the hundreds of millions. Last year it was very surprising because DeepSeek, one of the Chinese models, which is pretty good, the one that kind of invented the thinking part. When you see a model which is thinking before it responds, they
Mm-hmm.
invented that.
Oh.
We
Oh.
previously called that chain of thought, and we were kind of forcing the model to do that, but they embedded that into the model itself, into the
Okay.
response. They said that they paid, I think, around 10 million, which is a high decrease of cost. And their model is still too big on to run on my single PC, but it's pretty
Mm-hmm.
good.
Mm-hmm.
But what you can do after that is a lot of. They also launched like smaller models that you can run on your own PC, because they took their model and they kind of distilled some of that knowledge into smaller models. So they
Okay.
used models created by Meta, by Facebook, and
Yeah.
they distilled some of that intelligence and the thinking part into smaller models that people can use.
Okay.
So it depends exactly how large you want to create your model. The really good part is that you want to create a model of X size,
Uh,
you only pay for X. You don't need to buy the data center. You don't need to pay upfront. You're kind of renting exactly as much as you need.
okay. So that lowers the cost immensely.
It lowers the upfront cost immensely, and you don't. you're not stuck with the hardware after that. You don't have to do anything. Like you already have people who are providing this and have the hardware all the time. It's also helping them, because if they
Yeah.
have the hardware, oh, I'm part of this network now. We have like 98% usage. Like that's perfect.
Yeah.
If it drops, maybe they find another market to share their GPUs to.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I interrupted. Okay, we can continue now.
Mm,
So yeah. So basically, the what a developer then can do with that GPUs, and like when they pay for that, um, what's next?
in terms of um so you're creating, okay, as a developer you always kind of need to build product for your clients,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe I don't need to create a super specific general model like
Mm-hmm.
chat gpt that can answer any kind of question. I only want to create a specific simple model that does chat support for an online business.
Okay.
That means that I can train smaller models with decentralized AI. I can access the GPUs, I can access the energy, and I can access the data. And I, as a developer, I do what I'm best. I just write the code, coordinate everything, and output the model, and then build the interface and build all of that. So I created a chat bot, which is only good to answer questions related to anime characters, right? Because that's
Great.
what I'm selling on the shop.
Perfect.
And that's like, okay, that gives me the option of putting all this together, and then I create a small model which is cheap to use because it's not so general, it's not so large.
Mm-hmm.
It replies fast. It's safe because it doesn't know to do anything else. It cannot hack
Mm-hmm.
anything else. It cannot build bombs. It cannot do anything, any other like malicious things. So it allows me to use the energy that I need, use the data that I need, and create something which is actually more useful from
Okay.
one point of view, and more safe
Mm-hmm.
and cheaper, and it solves a very particular need. And we're going to see all of these in all kinds of businesses, because you're going to have big companies which have hundreds of these agents, chatbots, or AIs, which are very specific for a specific need. Maybe you want to
Mm-hmm.
collate some information from an Excel sheet and give you some information based on that, some kind of intelligence based on that. So all of these will be created maybe sometimes on the fly in the future, and that allows developers to build the products that generate these AI agents.
Okay. And so basically, you were also last time we talked, you were referring to a kind of a bazaar structure where it's kind of like
Mm.
a little, lots of different stands, kind of maybe what we are seeing right now with the apps that have on our phones. Is that something that you see as a possible future?
Yes. Centralized AI is not like a bazaar. Is like this perfect cathedral.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this huge, immense
Massive.
building, massive building that should be able to do anything perfectly, and there's a lot of pressure onto it. Oh, it shouldn't be too nice. It shouldn't be too aggressive, and it should solve. It should know physics. It should know maths. It should also be nice to the customer, but you should also be able to change personalities to it. And with decentralized AI, it's kind of a bazaar. It's a lot messier. It's a lot more chaotic. But one interesting part is that it makes it unstoppable. It makes it
Mm-hmm.
anti-fragile. So whenever you would have stressors pushing
Yeah.
into it, you would have other AIs which pop up and maybe solve those problems.
Mm.
Um, the ones that kind of already survive will survive and thrive and keep evolving.
Mm-hmm.
Like with reinforcement learning, you have this like more leveled out playing field that allows any person to participate in this ecosystem, because you're not hiding everything behind hidden techniques, hidden data, and very difficult to access hardware or energy. You're giving an opportunity to everyone who wants to do this, who is able to do it, and who wants to experiment, to do those experiments.
Okay. So if this is a bazaar and basically we then also could choose how much we would pay for each, depending on what kind of stand we want to spend our money, right? Why are we not talking about this? What is happening? How far are we on that road to create this bazaar? And what can we do?
Simple question is like simple answer would be it's not easy, and
Mm,
that's kind of a good thing, because it means that it's an important enough problem, and we're gonna have lots of benefits once we crack the problem,
okay. Which is?
which is how to do it efficiently and how to do it right.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'm gonna make a parallel with blockchains. With blockchains are pretty slow. So they are
Mm-hmm.
resilient. They survive all kinds of attacks. You cannot stop one server and stop the blockchain, but
Yeah.
that also means that because you cannot stop one, you would have to stop everyone. They also need to talk to each other a lot.
Yeah.
So that means that they're pretty slow, because they all need to be in consensus with each other. So there's a lot of chatter in the network.
Okay. Yeah.
With um with AI, there's also a lot of chatter when you decentralize it.
Mm-hmm.
That means that you might have people who are in one part of the world, and they provide you some GPUs,
Mm-hmm.
and you have other people in other parts of the world that provide another set of GPUs, and you're training the same model, because you're kind of building a single brain. They need to talk to each other, but because
Mm-hmm.
you have geographic differences and geographic distance between them, uh, by the nature of physics, they're gonna be slower to communicate. And
Okay.
being much closer together actually does help. Being centralized helps with speed. It doesn't help with resilience, because everything is in one place. You just stop one thing and then everything is stopped.
Okay.
If
Mm-hmm.
you decentralize, it's slower, but it's more resilient, and then you create a different rule set,
Okay.
because they don't necessarily need to trust each other. They need to trust the system, and they need to trust the marketplace. They need to trust the bazaar.
Okay.
So the really difficult part is finding a way
Mm-hmm.
that allows us to train models which are smart,
Yes.
which have knowledge, but also do it in with as much less energy as we can and as fast as we can.
Okay.
Because we're kind of competing with very centralized companies, which can build
Mhm.
everything in one place and then use all that energy and build their models.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's not easy. A few companies are trying to create different approaches to this,
Like
um,
Jensen.
like Jensen, like Pluralis, and like a few other companies which are creating different types of experiments, which are creating models, which are creating LoRa's, which are kind of like plugins on top of models. And once you create a plugin on top of model, you can change its behavior a little bit. So there's many types of approaches people are experimenting with, and we're not seeing this right now because it's currently being developed. So
Okay.
we're right at the edge of technology right now. That's
Yeah.
why it's also extremely exciting,
Yes.
and it's happening. We're seeing very good results.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gonna it's once you kind of dive into the tech, people are gonna be surprised how far we've gotten, and we can do very interesting things. Like recently, we've done a reinforcement learning experiment with Jensen, where you have a swarm, like a network of multiple nodes, which act like a swarm, like a kind of a single brain organism, but they have to coordinate, and they're all trying to solve the same problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the best models which are giving the best responses are being selected and are being rewarded. And then you're all trying to solve a new problem. And all nodes are kind of building their own version of the model. So they're allowed to evolve and become better over time. So that means that speed is really increased. And then also technique for evolution can also be tweaked and changed by people, as
Mm-hmm.
long as you're solving the same kind of problem in the best way. So there's a lot of innovation which is happening. This experiment was really interesting. I think at least when I first last checked it, it was like at least 10,000 nodes were participating in this experiment. There's going to be a paper launched soon, and there's lots of other research being developed at the same time. Like other, we're building the same model, or we're building um, plugins to it. Um, I think that in the near future, we're gonna see which technique works best, but we'll also see then other companies which try different techniques and different approaches, and that should always be tried. And because we're developing this platform for access to everything, you're allowing developers to create all these experiments and see which one works and which one doesn't.
And quick question here. Okay, so you're basically creating and building the infrastructure needed to decentralize AI to flourish and to exist and to be used by everyone. How do you make a profit there? Like, would the developer then pay also you guys for using the infrastructure? How does that work?
So we're kind of trying to make sure that another bubble is not being
Exactly, so that we don't have like
created
another
and popped.
centralization of something. Like, yeah, exactly.
There are a few approaches to this, and these are like they make a lot more sense for people who are in the blockchain world, I think. So
Yeah.
you're gonna have companies which need to. If I'm a developer and I need to build the chatbot for you, and
Mm-hmm.
I decide to use this decentralized network to build it,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the one that pays the network. The company is gonna be the one that pays me, and the
Mm-hmm.
people who provide the compute are gonna be the one that um, get those tokens, but they also need to pay further, like energy. They need to
Yeah.
get CPUs, GPUs, maybe, and provide service and so on. So, like, you're
Yes.
creating this new economy,
Yeah.
which was not necessarily, it didn't really exist before, like providing your GPU before
Mm-hmm.
you were mining Bitcoin or mining Ethereum a few years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I think like the money flow in the system. Um, in terms of creating other bubbles, this is also where networks experiment, because
Mm-hmm.
you could pay them in dollars or you could pay them in your network token,
Right.
and this can create some risks for the provider. So let's say that I have some GPUs and I need to pay energy at the end of the month.
Yeah.
I'm being paid in the token. I kind of need to decide when to sell the token to
Uh-huh.
pay the energy
Electricity.
provider.
Yeah.
If I choose the wrong time, I could go into bankruptcy.
Mhm.
If I choose the right time, I could have profit.
Right. Okay.
And there are some lessons from the people who were mining Bitcoin and Ethereum in the last 10 years. And
Mhm.
most of them had pretty good margins, but it becomes another like an important way to how to decide to manage those funds.
Yeah. No, I see. Okay, so this is entering in a new world again. Another one. Um, so I mean, I found it fascinating what you're saying with how decentralized AI is kind of giving us access to a way more complex and also way safer. I mean, that's risky in terms of if one end drops here or something happens here, the whole network still is existing. Which I find very interesting because it's kind of like the whole world is going towards way more complexity, right? So it kind of feels natural that also AI and all the new things that are developing all become more complex and also safer for the complexity. And then there's this counter movement, which we are all seeing as well. And we all are also craving for more simplicity. And then there is this massive centralization, what we talked in the beginning. So I find it super fascinating to see those both things that are kind of just showing, I think, maybe also on a collective level where we are standing right now. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
The world is definitely going into the more complex direction. We're kind of seeing a lot more entropy being generated. So like it's always going to go into a more complex and messy direction. However,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the developer's responsibility, the product's responsibility to hide that complexity behind the interface
Right.
and provide the user exactly what they need.
Mm,
And Google is an immensely good example. You go to Google, you have one input box and a
yeah.
couple of buttons, and that's it.
That's it.
But there's a lot of complexity behind.
Yeah. I love
ChatGPT is
that.
another good one. It's
Yeah.
simple. It's a chat box. You chat with it. It gives
Mm,
you what you want, and it's good enough. So
yeah.
you will have complexity, but there's an art, there's a science that you can
Mm-hmm.
use to hide that complexity and provide the users exactly what they need, and
Mm,
maybe not more.
nice.
And you also have the advanced way of, okay, I'm not deciding how the product looks for you, but I'm providing an API, and then you do that for
Mm-hmm.
yourself.
Mm-hmm. And another question. I recently just talked to my dad about AI, and we were saying, well, so AI right now, it had this massive boom and everyone was super excited. And then, AI is going to change the world and all that stuff, right? So then we all got super excited. And then suddenly, okay, so where is this massive change that we were all expecting? What happened to we're all going to lose our jobs and it's all going to be completely, we're going to completely be living in a super different world within 2 years. Like what happened to that change that suddenly feels like okay, we're kind of stagnated in a bit of a well, ChatGPT is a bit smarter now, or now there is Grok getting a bit more into these levels. I don't know. It just now we're just talking about how it might help you a bit more in your work life and also as a therapist or whatever people are using it nowadays for, but it's not really tremendously changing our lives yet. um, where do you see us in within all this, and where do you see it go from here? Are we going to have, I don't know, glasses or other devices that are going to really be the game changers, maybe with robotics? Are we already there? Is it going to take a lot of time? I don't know. What would you tell my dad?
Humans are a difficult bunch. The thing
Oh, yes,
is,
we are.
we were so surprised of how well ChatGPT was doing because it was able to do rhymes or kind of finish my sentence, even though
Yeah.
it wasn't doing anything great back then. Now it's 1,000 times smarter, but
Yeah.
we're less excited about it
Hmm.
because we got desensitized to it.
I got used to it so fast. It's crazy, isn't
It
it?
yes, and that's why. And on the other end, we had the doomers, if you remember them. Like, oh,
Mhm.
everything is gonna be destroyed by AI. They're going to hack
Totally.
everything. They're going to destroy everything. That also hasn't happened um,
Yet, maybe.
yet. There's humans are usually getting really excited about new technologies, and they overestimate what happens in the short term,
Okay.
and they usually underestimate what happens in the long term.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what people were expecting, but I'm doing so much with AI. I can talk to it. It talks back. A few weeks ago, I sneezed and it said, bless you.
Yes.
And I
Oh my
was really
god.
surprised by that.
That is
Um,
crazy.
it's already extremely useful. I'm pretty bullish on companies like Google. Even before they were launching their own product, I was really bullish because I tried to. One really good thing of AI is like, okay, it's we have this intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
but then we have to make it useful. In order to make it useful, we have to integrate it with services that already exist, like email, calendar, like maybe the kind of the basic stuff, which are still very digital, my browser and a few other things.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to do all those integrations. That's where once you have the intelligence, you have to put it to work. Putting
Mm,
it to work is another part of making it useful.
mm,
And that's why I'm really bullish on Google, because they already have the services. They already have Gmail. They already
mm,
have my calendar. They already have search. They already have like the internet's knowledge.
yeah.
And now they've proven they can create good AIs. So it's very easy for them to create those integrations since they control all of
Mm,
those rails. Um, we're seeing other products like Comet from Perplexity, which is an AI powered browser,
okay.
and it's surprisingly good. It can you can ask for, like, a lot of people are doing, like, book me something, and
Mm,
it can actually do that, and you can see how it navigates and how it does all of the steps. But it can do lots of other things. It can go into different tabs. It can go into my history and copy one information from one tab to another. So it's really surprisingly good, but it's still kind of scary to watch it all do all of this. And not just that it's scary, it's I'm still kind of I don't trust it
mm,
to I'm still a bit afraid to use it. So it's useful because, okay, I could do all those steps,
yeah.
but if I'm asking it to do it, in order for to kind of make sense, I kind of have to walk away from the computer, so I gain
Mm,
that time back myself, or do something else. That means I'm not watching it do those steps.
yeah.
And right now, we're not trusting AI enough
Right.
because we don't have enough transparency into all of this.
Mm,
Also, kind of benchmarking is another very important part that hasn't been solved. Like, because we see, like, okay, all these AIs, and then what they do on the tests, and do we trust the tests? Do we trust the AI producer? Have they polluted the training data with the tests, and now they're really good at the tests because they trained on those? So I think these are coming.
yeah.
There are already lots of versions, but we're still kind of discovering where it's useful first. If you
Mm,
would ask a developer, they would say that they use AI a lot because that's
mm,
where it was most obvious, and code is very its structure is very fixed,
yeah.
so it's very easy to train on it because it kind of always has to look the same. And if it does a mistake, you're gonna have a compiler or something else that
Mm-hmm.
maybe tells you it did a mistake or tests, hopefully.
Okay.
Thing is, if you also ask developers if they're more productive on AI, most of them will say they are. In reality, you're not always productive because lots of times you kind of have to go back and read what it wrote,
Yeah.
and reading is surprisingly different from writing. and you
Mm,
have to really be careful that it didn't do the wrong thing. Sometimes it writes too much code, and you have to kind of re-guide it, roll back a few steps, and do all of that work. It's still You still need human guidance
yeah.
because only you know exactly what you want, and you cannot
Mhm.
always put it in words.
Right. Right. So do you think that they're kind of slowing it down a bit as well because maybe we are just not ready yet to really also give up on a lot of things, exactly what you were saying. Like, do I trust the AI enough to just do whatever I would be doing, or um and be doing other things while it's booking me a restaurant reservation? It's kind of like it's a big giving up responsibility. So maybe also we are just, just like, okay, we're having a breather right now to really get used to it fully with what we already have, so that we can then go into the next phase. I don't know.
I think you're right. Yeah. So we don't trust it enough. And I think also with Google, I wasn't trusting it enough in the beginning when I
Mhm.
started using it. I was going to page 5 quite often in the beginning. Now I
Wow.
almost never don't, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it will become better, it will become more trustworthy, and will also evolve
Mhm.
to trust it
Right.
and to have better guidance systems. So it's maybe
Yeah.
also the technology, the evolution is not as abrupt as before. Even though like just less than a year ago, we had the thinking part, which really improved AIs quite a lot,
Yeah.
and we already forgot about it that it was such a massive improvement. But it's also like humans as a culture, as a behavior, we also have to evolve along with it because we still control what it does, and we kind of should. However, there are companies which are using AI and are a lot more experimental with these technologies, and they're doing trading, they're um, parsing large amounts of data, and they're making the experiments that others will have to follow in the future, and they're
Hmm.
going to have to find the right way to do it. So these are happening, but only if you're at the edge of technology, you're going to see some of these glimpses,
Right.
or you're going to try them yourself.
Hmm.
Um, if you're kind of more behind the scenes, if you're like a normal non-developer user, you're not going to see all of this because most of them honestly don't really concern you. They're not going to help your life.
Yeah.
But if you're a hedge fund, you're going to try to use AI.
Yeah. And do you see it helping our lives really anytime soon? Like with robotics, with integration in some other ways that I can't really even see right now. Do you see that?
I think it will help.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking of cars and driving. We
Yeah.
kind of have autopilot.
Yeah.
So autopilot exists for a long time. In the beginning, like it was just like keeping a fixed speed, and
Mm-hmm.
that was it. It wasn't even trying to keep distance from the car in front of you. Now you have trying to keep the distance. It's trying to stay in lane. It's trying to drive for you and kind of change directions.
Yes.
We're seeing lots of those experiments. It's We're kind of getting there, but we're gonna see a gradient of how much control we're happy to give, how well it behaves in the that medium. Because even
Mhm.
with cars, you're gonna train them for some roads. If you move the car in Asia, you're
Mm.
not gonna be able to drive there. It's a very different type of driving there.
Right.
Um, so you also need to kind of redo the training, make sure that in that medium it still works.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing, for example, with the robots, some robots which are able to adapt even if they lose a leg or something like that, and that's really surprising. With the same kind of brain, without retraining, they're able to adapt and
Wow.
keep moving. So that's really smart.
And you see
So
that happening soon, like that we gonna have a robot walking around like anytime soon?
I'm not sure about that because I don't know why would I want a robot to be walking around.
Clean your
Maybe
house,
for delivery. Um,
delivery, cleaning house, I don't know, just being around.
we're still kind of waiting for drones to
Mhm.
send packets.
Yeah.
Maybe it will happen. We also kind of have to. One robot like that is pretty expensive. It's
Mhm.
expensive to buy, and then you have to make sure that it doesn't get damaged. A lot of people are not gonna like this. Do you remember with Bird and with the limes and so on? Like you had these small powered electrical vehicles that you could rent,
Yeah.
and people were very angry at them. They were throwing them in rivers and so on. So we're gonna once we start to have
Yeah.
robots on the street, we're gonna have people who are against robots. You're gonna
Mhm.
have people who are pro robots. Um, we're gonna we're gonna see this. I don't know exactly where they're gonna be useful because maybe right now it's a lot more useful to have a person that delivers your food instead of a $60,000 robot,
Yeah.
which also needs power and cannot adapt really well in weird
Mhm.
situations. Um, so I'm not exactly sure where those will fit. I
Mhm.
do feel like the humanoid robots are maybe too much. I think we're probably going to start with some very specific robots which do one thing and one thing really well,
Okay.
and that's those are going to be a lot simpler, easier to manage, easier to train,
Mhm.
cheaper to produce and to run,
Yeah.
and are going to help.
Mhm.
But if you need like help in the house, in let's say that you're old and you want some kind of help in the house, you might see those robots if we really afford them. So maybe when we're gonna be old, we're gonna have those robots helping us.
Yeah, I guess maybe then also we're gonna be mentally also just prepared for that. Because I think again here it's just such a massive different shift of everything that I think we need to kind of be mentally prepared for this too. To just have like robots walking around like that.
Yeah. We're gonna have some weird situations when this happens.
Yeah.
Right now, there's a lot of space of innovation in the kind of full online digital world.
Mhm.
And there are some changes which I really don't like when I see them. Like you're seeing a lot more AI generated content, what people call
Mhm.
AI slop, and that kind of is reducing the overall quality of the internet, which
Yeah.
is saying something because the internet was not really the greatest
Was
thing,
that
but
the
now
best?
it's like it's even worse to find the good quality stuff.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah. Interesting times for sure. Can I ask you, you were in the beginning, and already heading towards the ending questions. In the beginning, you were saying that we are defining intelligence. And I wanted to ask you, what is intelligence for you?
this is like really difficult to define. I'm not. You would probably need to even if you ask a psychologist, they would
Mm,
have tough time defining
totally.
intelligence.
Totally.
You can define intelligence as IQ, so that means you have to pass a test and you get a score,
Hmm.
or you have different types of intelligence. You have emotional intelligence, you
Yeah.
have intelligence related to math or to language or to other sciences.
Hmm.
Um, what I really like AIs for is intelligence in identifying relevant information, extracting that data, summarizing. So it's not super, super intelligent, but it's pretty good at doing that.
Yeah.
You can have other systems which provide the knowledge and it's able
Hmm.
to use knowledge and kind of process information much quicker.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's still kind of evolving. It does have internal knowledge. It does understand physics and maths and so on. It doesn't mean that it's doing them really well, but it at least has the formulas and the principles somewhere in the neural network.
Yeah.
Um, so intelligence is one of the trickiest things to define.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and suddenly it's not human anymore in that sense, right? What we always thought that that was the I don't know, traditional way of intelligence, and that's what makes us human. It was one way of seeing what makes us human, and then suddenly it's like, no, a machine is actually very intelligent, and in only that sense. So yeah, in some way, it might lead us to understand maybe what makes us human beyond all that. So that's, I think, a fascinating question there.
I don't know how to define qualities of people which are purely human, because we're
Mm.
seeing intelligence, we're seeing communication, we're seeing tool use, we're seeing everything in other animals, and we have to kind of accept that we are animals
Oh yeah.
ourselves.
Hmm.
So we were just lucky in the evolution process to give us ourselves names, and maybe don't give the others other names, and we're classifying different beings differently, and it's very egotistical to kind of retreat into a set of features and say like, oh, only we have these features. I really like those sets of features are dwindling. They're gonna be we're gonna lose all of them as being only for humans soon. And if you kind
Hmm.
of read, I really like Isaac Asimov. He goes a lot into this philosophical debate of what is human and what is not. Because in
Uh,
his books, he was creating these very organic brains, and then you would have robots which were almost indistinguishable from humans, and it was you had all these philosophical questions and debates of like, are they intelligent? Are they beneath us? Are they not? Really think that we shouldn't ask these questions. Like we should kind of just accept that people, robots, they are as they are, and not try to put too many tags and categories on things because it's not really helping. Just keep evolving things and try to create harmony. Because I think they will all exist in the future. They will become better. They'll become smarter. They're already doing some things better than us. Computers were already doing some things better than us. Like, and the kind of the point of doing all of this is to improve until they are better than us. Like, we're not gonna stop and say like, oh, we're losing our last quality. Like, let's stop. And then one company
mm,
keeps doing that, and then the others have to do it. It
mhm,
won't work.
mm. Interesting. I love the idea of going towards harmony with all sorts of development. I mean, also one I heard, I think it was Mo Gaudat. I have no idea if I just pronounced his name right, but he was mentioning how AI could help us to yeah end all the suffering of inequalities and the wars, and just yeah, helping us to he was saying some sort of that AI would then be in charge and be controlling and be the one um without the bias, which I kind of find like hard to see that AI couldn't have a bias, like it just especially with what all everything that we just said, there's always a bias, right? So but yeah, I thought it's an interesting thought experiment to look into how AI would be in governments, and then would then be more in charge of neutral decision making, which also I find hard. But it's just an interesting thought experiment to look. Okay, would we actually want that? Is that is that really something that we want? Because where is then the human living aspect as well? There is something to it, to being alive, and part of a living consciousness, which then robots, AI won't really have access to. Maybe you have some answers.
I think it will. So right now, it's already helping us make decisions. Whenever you ask it something, you
Mhm.
kind of you do something based on the input that you get, the response that you get.
Yeah.
We need more perspectives. AI is something that is maybe more reliable, but not necessarily in the making good decisions, but
Hmm.
in making the same decision in the same context. Because
Yeah.
you can kind of snapshot it, give it the same inputs, you're going to have the same outputs. I'm going to want to do different things tomorrow,
Hmm.
and every human is going to be a bit different tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you can use the same snapshot of AI and get the same reliable output in the same instance. And this is something that we can use, and we can use for complex decision making. And it doesn't really mean that we have to take that path, but it's good to have that perspective.
Hmm. But then, quick question: if we have different AIs, like the bazaar, we're gonna have also very different perspectives and also very different um, responses from AI,
And
right?
that's great.
Yeah, I love that.
We have even more perspectives. Like there
Mhm.
is more, like, even if we make a different decision, we're more sure that that decision was the right one because we explored a lot more paths. So we know that that's perfect.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Hmm.
And if we made a mistake, maybe we look back and say like, oh, maybe we should have listened to that AI.
Mm, interesting. Yeah. Um. Okay, going into the last questions. You already answered them last time, but here we go again. So, in 5 to 10 years, where do you see us?
I honestly don't remember what I said last time, but
It's great.
because I'm a different person now.
Exactly.
Um,
That's
I
human.
think we're gonna see a lot more variety. Like it's gonna be great. Right now, we're just seeing, like, in the last few, like, 3 years, like,
Mhm.
since in the last 3 years, we started to have like ChatGPT and the whole AI explosion,
It's
and
great.
it's not that much, but
No.
so many things have happened.
Yes.
However, a lot of centralized AI was developed till now, and
Mhm.
we're we have invested in decentralized AI quite a lot, and we're focusing a lot more on this um, niche right now, which it might seem a niche at the moment, but I think it's going to be huge in the future. Maybe
Yeah.
open source seemed a niche. Like, open source did seem like a niche when I was in high school, but now it's like the dominating force in software.
Hmm.
And with AI, we're going to see a lot more variety, and not just in how AI works and how we interact with it, but also how we create it, how we source data for it, and how it evolves. Um, it's going to be a lot more polished and interesting. Um, we're also going to see, like, I kind of hope that this is going to happen, like, more swarm like intelligence. So maybe you have a few types of AI which are trying to work together
Yeah.
to solve a problem, and
Mhm.
you just don't just give too much control to one thing, and they kind of verify each other. So that means that you trust them a bit more. You also add a few humans that maybe try to oversee the process,
Yeah.
but I kind of hope that the world will not change too much. We're
Mhm.
just going to improve on the things that we already have and we can improve right now. I do think that this is probably one of the, like, this and blockchain are two huge revolutions that we're seeing and we're living through right now. Some people are kind of sleeping on what their impact is.
Mhm.
And maybe you cannot contribute to one, but maybe you could contribute to the other.
Yeah.
That's why I really like blockchain, because I feel like I could contribute to it. Now I feel like I can contribute to AI in the right time,
Yes.
and I'm always very interested in having an impact. Even if you don't contribute to either of them, make sure that you kind of learn how to use them and build those skills, because they're not going away. So they're
Yeah.
going to be embedded more and more into everything. I
Hmm.
hope we're going to not see like too much of the bad stuff, like fake people and a few other things. I do think blockchain can help with identifying people,
Right.
and AI will help with generating solutions, decisions, sometimes content for us. There's a bit too much content right now. I want a lot more decision making.
Yes.
Um, it's just going to be, it's going to be very interesting. But like, yeah, we're going to see some robots. I'm not super excited about the robots part. I'm a lot more excited about the digital integration of intelligence and other systems.
Like what? Integration.
Like AI. At the moment, I'm pretty interested in AI powered browsers. I think those are pretty interesting because a lot of our digital footprint already lives in a browser.
Hmm.
So you're giving access to an AI to do a few things for you. Maybe you know, kind of go through your email and I have the unsubscribe for unsubscribe like some for some emails. Like do some things that you wouldn't really want to do it, that we're a bit overwhelmed with right now.
Yes, definitely.
Uh, Maybe give me like 5 emails I should actually reply to instead of going to 100.
Good point. I love that.
So
Mhm.
like these are kind of the simple things, that problems that we didn't really have 10 years ago. We didn't have these like too many emails.
Yeah.
Getting an email was maybe exciting a lot longer time
Oh my
ago.
gosh, someone
Now
said
getting a phone call is not. Getting an email is like a to-do list in my inbox. I don't want it
yes.
anymore.
So true. So true. Also, one of the last questions. What is a new world in the making for you?
I think we've done, in the last 10 years at least, we've done a pretty good job of engineering money, which was something that was kind of an historical artifact from a few hundred years before. And now we had the opportunity of rethinking this a little bit, and giving a bit more power to individuals and to other groups of people who really want this. It shouldn't be only in the hands of countries. In the next 10 years, I think we're kind of redesigning and engineering intelligence, and we're trying to do this for half a century at least. It feels like now we actually have a chance to do it, and intelligence is maybe one of the scary forces. Money is still a very scary, powerful force. Intelligence is even scarier. So like we're on the precipice of creating something really beautiful or exploding the whole world. I do think we're going to create something extremely interesting. I'm usually very optimistic about the humanity. I think that things kind of balance themselves out
Okay. This is why you keep optimistic, or why can you stay so optimistic?
because I think because I'm pragmatic. So like I can I
Fair.
have to think I'm optimistic. I have to think it's going in the right direction so I can keep moving forward.
Mm.
If not, I freeze and I stop and nothing good happens out of that.
Probably also because you have a very active just doing things about it. Um that is, I think you have to be active and taking things into your own hands to be and stay optimistic. I think if you think that the world is doomed and you can't do anything about it, of course you're going to be a more pessimistic, just yeah, just a more pessimistic view of things, right? So I mean, think this time we didn't even get to speak about this, but last time you were sharing that you left college because you thought it was just not giving you any new insights. So I mean, when you don't think that something is interesting anymore to you because it's not providing you with anything, just be able to go and do something about it. Yeah, this is how we are optimistic, right? Just seeing that we have agency. Does that make sense?
it does make a lot of sense. Like the fact that I've been so involved in AI kind of pulled me away from being a doomer because I know
Mhm.
I especially knew how stupid AI was and how stupid it is, like trying what limitations are. But I'm trying to push those limits forward, and I feel like I get a little bit of control because I'm so deep
Mhm.
into the technology,
Yeah.
and I honestly just enjoy interacting with it and contributing and
Mhm.
being part of it. Um,
Yeah, and I think that's also one of the main reasons why this is very helpful to get this insider perspective from you. To understand that we do have agency, that there is a lot we can do. The AI feels so powerless in a way. So, that's what also I think decentralized AI is just giving us so much hope, because it's like, ah, no, that there are actually lots of ways of how we can take, yeah, take also agency and things into our hands, which is very great.
it doesn't seem so disconnected from the average developer.
Mm,
It gives me power to build things on my own, so I don't have to go to OpenAI to be part of this. I can do things on my
mm,
own. I can do things with a small number of people, and that's great. Yeah, I think you hit the nail in the head. It decentralized AI really gives me and other people like me power to be part of this revolution and
mm.
actually be like move along with it, not just watch it from the sidelines.
Yeah, fascinating. It's so cool. Thanks so much for doing the work and bringing us this new world of opportunities and possibilities. And before we go into the last question, what is something that has surprised you recently?
I'm not sure how deep or how high level I should go to this. I'm
Right.
surprised that I'm seeing a lot more or a few other architectures which seem to be promising in terms of creating intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And I this isn't clearly not completely explored. We're gonna see a lot more transformer based models, but we're gonna see also other types of architectures. So I was surprised that they actually work and then you can make them efficient, like the hierarchical recursive models. Those seem to be interesting. Um,
What does that like? Wait, so from someone that's not really technical, what does hierarchical models and architecture mean?
okay. Um,
Let's go. We need to go back to the basics.
I think it's easier to explain with the stable diffusion models.
Mhm,
I think you've heard of stable diffusion models. These are very popular when you're creating images, and you kind of see the image like very pixelated and buzzy and fuzzy and everything, and then you kind of the objects start to appear into focus.
mhm,
What the technique that they're using is diffusion or like the physics of fluids which
mhm.
come from reality from fluid physics, which means that if you kind of drop a if you yeah if you drop like some color in water, you're gonna see it diffuse and move,
Yes,
and
yeah.
that's the inverse process. And what they're trying to do is like from the final diffused process, they're going back to the drop, or they're going back to the
Uh,
original object. So they're
okay.
taking the steps back, but they're doing this with all pixels at the same time, and they're
Mm.
trying to find the objects that you're describing as the source image.
Wow. Okay. Crazy. So it's like dissolve back, making it backwards, like from dissolve to the drop.
Yeah,
Okay.
kind of
Completely.
like that. So if you describe something like a cat
Uh
in a
huh.
field, and you draw that with watercolors, and then you let everything like mush together, that's
Yes.
the final version. And then it's trying to do the inverse process where it's finding the cat and the
Oh
field
my
back
god.
again. And this
And
is how diffusion models work.
how does it like for what? For what purpose?
create images. So these are very good to create images, create videos, create all of this. These
Okay.
were one of the, like, this is another type of architecture which is not so good at creating text, but it's
Uh,
pretty good at creating images.
ooh.
And the technique is kind of fascinating because it's taking the steps back, it's moving, it's trying to find the objects in the noise.
Mm.
It's
Mm,
starting from pure noise and it's trying to find what you expressed there. So
okay.
this is a different type of architecture, and some people are kind of trying to apply this to text.
Mm,
With LLMs, they have, and transformer likes, they're very different because you feed one word to it and it's trying to predict the next word.
yeah.
And then you feed these two words and it's trying to predict the next one. So, and like every time you're kind of going back, you're taking everything and like doing, is there a word which is following the cat is? Yes, there's another word. Like the cat is on. Okay, now you're taking everything. Is there another word after the cat is on? Yes, there's another one. So it keeps on doing this. Like it's very recursive, and that's why you see word by word the response building. And with images, everything kind of fades into focus at the same time.
Fascinating.
So these
Okay.
are very two different approaches. The hierarchical models are another type of architecture which has a few loops inside, so you
Uh-huh.
don't see those answers being kind of pushed to you, but it loops a few times inside the model because before it gives you the answer.
Okay.
um and there are other types of architectures which like either change how the model is trained, how the model works internally, how you see the output, and there's lots of innovation in this space. And I find all of this fascinating that
Mm,
people are not happy with the dominating architecture, which is the transformer model, which almost everybody uses right now, but they're still trying to find other approaches to how we build intelligence.
wow. I didn't even know that that was a thing or that. Oh, interesting. Fascinating. And also, talking about architecture, I was just thinking about this again and again. Um, you were also mentioning energy usage. Um, for these massive GPUs and all that, uh, all these data centers, we need so much energy. And we are kind of, I don't know, this is like a massive challenge, especially with climate change, with oil prices going completely up. Um, and just we need massively the green transition. Do you see maybe decentralized AI or even also centralized AI change the energy transition or help the energy transition into something more clean and green because
I
it's
think
cheaper ultimately also?
it already has a massive impact, and it will have an even bigger impact in the future, because with
Hmm.
more energy that you're able to unlock, you
Yeah.
also unlock more demand for AI.
Hmm.
With more demand, you're going to be able to unlock even more energy. The
Hmm.
thing is, I do think decentralized AI helps kind of by nature with this, because if you're going to have with centralized AI, you build a huge data center, and that means you need a lot of energy in a very small area.
Yeah.
So you need energy from that in that exact area. You're not
Right.
distributing the required amount in multiple places. So that means you're putting a lot of stress into a small region.
Yes.
So you also need to build something that produces energy or take the energy from other parts.
Yeah.
Now, over time, we've gotten better at generating energy, especially
Hmm.
with solar panels.
Yeah.
Those are more and more popular right now. I even have a solar panel on my house, and I'm producing a lot more energy that I'm consuming over the course of the year.
Hmm.
But at the moment, I don't have a place to store that energy.
Right.
And that's kind of a problem because I have to feed that energy in the network, And then when I need excess, I have to pull it back. So I'm moving a lot of energy, even though I shouldn't really do that.
Yeah.
So the cost of energy is still kind of going up, but the generation is going down because we have more ways and they're more efficient. So that means that transporting this energy is more expensive.
Mm.
If you have decentralized AI, that means that you don't necessarily need to transport a lot of energy. You're using energy where it exists. You can space things out much better, and then you're not creating problems when, like, for example, during summers you see spikes in energy because everybody turns their AC on kind of almost at the same time. We're all bound by that temperature, and then you see spikes, and then problems start to appear. And some solutions to that are to kind of create battery packs at each house, or you have an electric car and that serves as a battery pack. So you're still kind of decentralizing the storage of powers. Like, this decentralization still helps with energy quite a lot. So to get back to your question, we're going to see massive changes in energy because we're really good at doing chips, and these kind of still improve, and we're seeing some advances in that part also. And we're going to see a lot more chips which are specific for AI, because GPUs kind of fell into they're good for AI by mistake. They were very, very good at games. They were made for games, and people realized, like, oh, they're also, like, these are very powerful. Let's use them for AI because we need to do a lot of matrix multiplication operations. But you can create chips which are specific for AI, either for training or either for inference, which right now we're using the same hardware. And with energy, we're going to have to find more ways to store that energy, and do that in a very decentralized way, so we don't create a lot of pressure and problems on the network, because we need a lot of energy to transport right now. And also, we kind of, I feel like the network that we have needs to be upgraded. It's pretty old technology. We have wires, not just that it needs necessarily to be upgraded from a technological point of view. They're just old. They have tens of years, and some of them have to be changed and have to
Yeah.
be refurbished. So
Yeah.
energy is definitely going to change. I'm not sure exactly what kind of effect will have this on the globe as a whole,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
No, it's fascinating. And for me, this is just a very, yeah, I don't know. It just makes so much more sense, when incentives are aligned, when just a lot of powers go into the same direction of, well, we need the energy transition. It's like we definitely need that. And right now, there's no real incentive, financial incentive to do that. But with decentralized AI, with Bitcoin mining, with like so many different motors now, forces going into the same direction, there are actually incentives to go into that. Also, more localized, smaller units of energy creation. So it's just it makes so much more sense. And for me, this is just fascinating. I'm excited to see that. Um, okay, so before we go into the last question, do you have anything else to add? Do you want to say something that we haven't?
Not in terms of answering questions. I do have some announcements I have to make. If
Great.
But yeah, okay.
Okay, cool. So then, yeah, if you want to give those announcements, and then also leave a question for the listeners that they can sit with and have a thought on this.
So in terms of what I want the world to hear from me
Yes.
know from me is, like, I'm really passionate about the movie that I was talking, like Code is Law, the movie. It's
Mm-hmm.
specifically about blockchain hacks, and it's going to be live on October 21st on Prime and Apple TV first.
Amazing. I'm gonna link it.
Perfect. That's great. And because I'm a tech marketer at EdenBlock, we have to we're focusing a lot more on AI, and we're focusing very, very much on decentralized AI. So if anyone is building anything interesting and smart in this space, we want to talk to them. Like, come to
Great.
me.
Yes.
We're gonna have a chat about it, and let's see how this goes.
Please don't.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get out there.
Great. Thanks a lot. And really thanks a lot for the work that you're doing. And yeah, I'm just very fascinated and waiting to see where this goes.
Thanks for having these conversations and asking questions to really understand how things are working and how things fit into each other. It's really forcing people like me to make sense of their thoughts and put them into words and put them out there for more people to be informed and be part of what's happening.
No, my pleasure. Seriously. It's really great to have this insider perspective that we would otherwise never have. And yeah, it gives me so much more hope and agency and just yeah, answers a lot of questions that are wandering around my head all the time. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Cool. Thank you.
Just that question, if you want to leave us with one to like another one to just stay with it.
A question for the listeners, you said.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm curious to kind of understand how people are thinking what the ideal world would look
Mm.
like, considering this technology will be part of the future, and how like in more engineered cities would look like when you take into
Mm.
all these technologies and kind of make them work together, like engineered money, engineered intelligence, and engineered so many other things. Like, can we actually make a very interesting city we would love to live in? That's something I would be interested in exploring.
Fascinating. Me too. I would love to explore that. Amazing. Thanks so much for this question. Maybe the next conversation we can talk about that. Thanks a lot, Daniel.
Thank you, Adriana.